Okay.
Do you know the answer to that, Michael? My understanding was that if you are physically outside the district, you are allowed to participate through some sort of teleconference and participate in the conversation, but not vote.
That's a new one to me.
I'm pretty sure that
yeah.
that Mark Zaffarano told me something to that effect. Because I was looking at potentially being in Arizona for like a couple months back in 2020, but that did not happen because of the pandemic.
Well, mine will happen because I'm going to Australia to see my grandchildren and my son and daughter-in-law. So we're just trying to figure out the timing, but we will be gone 6 to 8 weeks and probably closer to 8. So, but I'm very willing to make every effort to attend the meetings, even though I'm gone.
Yeah, well, we'll check the answer for that one for you.
It's possible that if the current orders are still in effect, that rule would end up being relaxed as well. But yeah, at the time he was definitely telling me I would have to essentially provide public notice, and I'm like, why is anybody in Arizona going? Right, you'd have to like book a room at a public library and post public notice of the meeting being there, and I was just like, this seems ridiculous, but that was the interpretation of the Brown Act at the time.
Yeah, and I remember situations where, well, before COVID, where I'd had like city council members who like were ill or something but wanted to participate on the phone, and then I remember we did the notice posting at City Hall and at the door that there would be 2 locations for the meeting, but since COVID I have not heard of that.
Yeah, well,
issue, right?
And if you are ill but you're still in the district, right? Like this was the thing that was sort of particularly weird to me, was that my recollection is a couple of years ago was that what he told me was that you could participate in the conversation from remote, but you could not make substantive votes if you were not physically in the jurisdiction. So I don't know. We'll have to ask a lawyer, I guess, if that.
Yeah, no, we'll ask Mark. Yeah, for sure, and I'll send an email to everyone.
So anyway,
answer to that.
All right, it is 7 o'clock, and we have our full expected. And there's Michael Smith. Yes, so we do have. I think we have everybody that we need.
Yes, I think we're ready to go.
All righty, let's get this show on the road. Thank you to everyone for attending the Planning Commission meeting tonight. The Commission will continue to hold meetings remotely via Zoom until such time as it is determined that it's safe to meet in person by relevant health authorities. Please know that we want to hear from you, members of the public. If you are in the audience and you would like to address the Commission during public comment for an item on the agenda, please use the raise your hand button at the bottom of your. We'll call your name, unmute you, and give you 3 minutes to address the Commission. If you are joining us by telephone, you may also address the Commission during public comment periods by pressing *9, and staff will address you most likely by your phone number and unmute you. You will also be given 3 minutes to address the Commission. Please note, anyone in attendance may only speak once per agenda item. Madeline, could we have our roll call?
Yes. Chair Harmon?
Present.
Vice Chair Madden? Absent. Commissioner Biasotti?
Here.
Commissioner DeRosso? Absent. Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Lethen?
Here.
Commissioner Morgan?
Here.
5 commissioners present, 2 absent. You have a quorum.
Adequate for a quorum. All right. Mary Lou, would you care to lead us in the pledge this evening?
Yes. I'm waiting for the flag to come up. Everyone can please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America.
And to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. At this time, we would be open for public comment for items not on the agenda. Do we have anyone in attendance that is seeking to address the commission? Raise your hand at this time. Do you see any hands, Adeline?
I do not see any hands, Chair.
All right. We will move on then. Do we have any announcements of conflict of interest on topics before us this evening? Seeing none, I will move right along. All right, we are up to our public hearings, which we have. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped over approval of the minutes. I was looking at my other sheet. Planning Commission minutes, March 15th, 2022. Does anyone have any issues with the minutes, or do we have a motion to approve them?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of March 15th.
And I'll second.
Motion
Roll
and a second?
call.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Chair Harmon,
Aye.
Commissioner Biasotti,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Lethen,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan.
Aye.
Minutes pass.
Great. All right. Public hearings. We have Glenview Terrace Subdivision and staff report, please.
Hi, good evening, Chair. Michael Smith, Planning Department staff. Bear with me while I get the PowerPoint up and running.
Yep, I am seeing your screen. Oh.
I just took it down for that was purpose. On purpose.
Michael, I'm bringing the applicant into the room.
Okay. Okay.
Looks like we're having a bit of a delay.
Yeah, no, sorry. I'm just making sure that it's running properly. So I'm going to share it right now. All right, can everyone see everything?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So good evening, Chair Harmon and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Michael Smith, Senior Planner for the department. Tonight I will be presenting for you, for your consideration, the Glenview Terrace Residential Subdivision Project. Here's the agenda for tonight's presentation. We will begin with a project description, then roll into the project entitlements, go over the environmental review for the project, review the background of the project site, discuss how the project is complying with the city's affordable housing requirement, highlight the development agreement associated with the project, and summarize the architectural peer review, cover the required TSPC review for traffic improvements, and end with an explanation of the public outreach that was done for the project. From there, we will move into the applicant's presentation, which will focus on project design, and we will take questions from the commission when we have finished both presentations. And then we'll open it up for public comment after that. So the proposed project includes the demolition of the existing on-site structures, and this is the Glenview Terrace project. The on-site structures are located at 850 Glenview Drive, and there are a church and parsonage there currently. The entire site is 3.28 acres, and the proposal is to construct 29 single-family homes. It's a small residential subdivision. It would include 5 utility lots and open space lots, and a minimum of streets that are at least 22 feet in width, serving the new development. There would be 5 open spaces. Lots would be utilized for access, utility easements, storm drains, and open space purposes, and would be owned and maintained by the homeowners association. Proposed homes would be 2 stories with 6 homes along the eastern edge of the site abutting the Crestmore Canyon, having walkout basements integrated into the downslope at the rear of the homes. The homes will range in size from 1,700 square feet to a little over 2,600 square feet of habitable space, with an average of just over 2,000 square feet of habitable space. And all homes will have at least 3 bedrooms and go up to 4 bedrooms at max. All homes will have an attached 420 square foot 2-car garage and private rear yards. All homes will have at least minimum 4-foot side setbacks and 15-foot front setbacks. The proposed lots in the subdivision range in size from about a little over 2,300 square feet to a little over 4,100 square feet, with an average lot size of 3,070 square feet. They have an average 8.8 average FAR. Each home will have 2 covered parking spaces and a driveway that could accommodate 2 additional cars. In addition to the private parking spaces, there are 19 additional on-street guest parking spaces along the internal circulation street, which will be included to serve the new residential development. 4 homes in the development would be deed restricted as affordable units for low and moderate income households, pursuant to the city's affordable housing ordinance. The 3 existing lots that you see there today on the site will be merged into one development site. And then it would be subdivided into 29 single-family home lots. Included in this development, there's a defensible space behind the homes that are adjacent to Crestmore Canyon. That's a 30-foot defensible space, and that's required for fire purposes. The project would include the construction of internal roadways and circulation street, which connect to Glenview Drive at 3 entry points. 2 of those entry points would provide 2-way entry to and from Glenview Drive. The first one, which is closest to San Bruno Avenue, would be ingress only. The proposed internal rights-of-way would range in size from, I think I said, from 22 to 24 feet in width. And all the development lots would be maintained, and all landscape would be maintained by the HOA. So, as I said, the site consists of 3 parcels. They are located at the northeast corner of San Bruno Avenue West and Glenview Drive. The southern portion of the site, fronting on San Bruno Avenue West, was known as 2880 to 2890 San Bruno Avenue. These were formerly developed with a gasoline service station. This was a portion of the site that was approved for townhome development in 2006. And that project was never built. This portion of the site remains undeveloped today. The northern portion of the site, as I've said, is known as 850 Glenview Drive. That is accessed from Glenview Drive and is currently developed with a vacant church and parsonage. The church site is zoned R1, which is single-family residential. The part nearest San Bruno Avenue is zoned PD, which is planned development, and that is a vestige of the approvals from the townhouse development. that was approved. The site slopes down gradually towards the east before sloping down more steeply to the northeast corner of the site as it goes down into Crestmore Canyon. So it does have a slope which you can see kind of in the back corner as it goes down into Crestmore Canyon. So what we're looking at as far as project entitlements, the project requires a CEQA determination. Staff has prepared an initial study and mitigated neg deck for the project for your consideration. The project also requires a general plan amendment. The 2.2 acre northern portion of the site, which is the 850 Glenview portion, is currently within a low density residential, and that would be amended to become medium density residential. And that new general plan designation of medium density residential would allow up to 24 dwelling units per acre. And that is the same general plan designation for the other portion of the site, which is 2880, 2890. And again, that was a general plan amendment was done for that portion of the site when the townhouse development was approved in 2006, but never built. The project also requires amending the zoning ordinance to change the zoning district for 850 Glenview Drive from R1 to Planned Development District. And so that would result in the whole site being within the PD Planned Development District. The project also requires amending the existing PD that covers the 2880 into 2890 site so that the PD that governs the entire project is consistent across the entire development site. There's also a vesting tentative map associated with this project that would, again, create the 29 individual lots for the homes and the 6 public easement or public lots, which includes the landscape lots and the densible space and the 2 stormwater treatment areas located at corners of the site. The project requires a planned development permit, and that is to determine consistency with the planned development district, which we are trying to establish. The project also requires a architectural review permit for new buildings that are visible from the public right-of-way. And then last but not least, there's a development agreement associated with this project, which I'll go into in a little bit. So in order to analyze the potential environmental impacts of the project, the city prepared an initial study which identified several potential environmental impacts associated with the implementation of the proposed project. All impacts identified in the initial study could be mitigated to a less than significant level with implementation of the recommended mitigation measures. So a mitigated negative declaration was prepared for the projects, and that is attached to the staff report. Impacts in the following areas would be potentially significant, but could be reduced to less than significant level through implementation of the recommended mitigation measures. The first was air quality. The construction of the proposed project would exceed the applicable threshold of significance, resulting in a potential significant impact. Implementation of the Bay Area Air Quality District's basic construction mitigation measures would minimize those air quality impacts related to construction to a less than significant level. So therefore, compliance with the Bay Area Air Quality District's basic construction mitigation measures is included for the project. Biological resources was another area identified. There's the possibility that the site contains special status species of plants and wildlife. There's a mitigation monitoring and reporting program, which requires a series of reports and studies prior to the start of any construction activities. Cultural resources could be encountered during construction, so standard mitigation measures related to preserving and protecting cultural resources is also included in the MMRP. The project site is located within the Alquist-Priolo fault zone for the San Andreas Fault and is susceptible to potentially significant seismic surface rupture and strong seismic ground shaking. In addition, there's a potential exists for landslides, lateral spreading, and slope instability, and the loss of topsoil during grading to occur at the project site. To mitigate these impacts, the project is required to implement the recommendations of the geotechnical report, which is an appendix to the mitigated negative declaration, and submit an erosion control plan prior to grading activities. And this is the mitigation measures related to geology and soils. For hazards and hazardous materials, the potential presence of asbestos and lead-based paint in on-site structures may present a hazard to workers doing demolition of the structures. In addition, the possibility exists to encounter limited contamination in on-site soil during grading and excavation. These represent potentially significant impacts to the public. Therefore, mitigation measures have been applied to the project to address them. Construction activities have the potential to result in temporary increases in noise levels in the project area that could result in potentially significant impacts to residential noise levels in the project vicinity. Therefore, compliance with the city's noise ordinance would reduce the noise impacts to less than significant. And so there's been a mitigation measure added to the project to address this as well. So the mitigated neg deck was made available for a 30-day public review as required by law. And that 30-day public review commenced in May of 2021 and ended at the beginning of June in 2021. A notice of intent was filed with the state clearinghouse and circulated to property owners within 300 feet of the project site and the entire Crestmore neighborhood, and posted on the city's website for the project. During the 30-day comment period, the city received 2 written comments from members of the public. Therefore, we prepared a response to comments memo, which is also attached to the staff report to the resolution to document the city's response that was received on the document. And so that is also attached for your consideration. And so today we're asking, as we move forward, that you review and note both the comments that to our response to the comments on the document, as well as the document itself, and we've prepared an MMRP for the project for your consideration. So a little bit of background on the site. I think I talked about this a little bit, but the site was formerly developed with a gasoline service station at 2880 and 2890. They were removed in 2003. A residential project was entitled for this site in 2006. That's 16 townhomes. That was only on a portion of the site. That portion of the site is only a little over 1 acre. The entitled project also required a general plan designation at that time. And it also, because it amended the zoning at that time, which was neighborhood commercial to medium density residential. And it changed the zoning from neighborhood commercial district to planned development district. But as I said before, that project was never built. But the PD zoning district from that project remains in place. So regarding the heritage trees, there were a total of 61 trees on and adjacent to the development site. 47 of those trees was identified as heritage trees. 58 on-site trees would be removed as part of the project. 44 of those trees are considered heritage trees that would require replacement per the code. 3 adjacent heritage trees would remain, and by adjacent I mean on the area around the site, but not on the site, and they would be protected during construction. The code offers a tree replacement credit of either 2 24-inch box trees or 1 36-inch box tree for each heritage tree removed. So the project would include a total of 71 total replacement trees, 53 24-inch box trees, and 18 36-inch box trees, for a total tree replacement credit of 45 trees. So the project is subject to the city's affordable housing program as outlined in the code. The code requires new for-sale residential projects to include at least 15% of the total units as affordable housing units, with 5% of the units restricted for occupancy by low-income households and 10% of the units restricted for occupancy by moderate-income households. And this is for a period of 45 years. Based on the ordinance requirements, the total on-site obligation is 4 affordable units distributed by income as 3 moderate income units and 1 low income unit. And there would be a partial low income unit payment for a decimal fraction of less than 1/2. So staff has worked with the applicant to formulate an affordable housing plan that satisfies the city's affordable housing requirement. And the vesting tentative map includes a condition of approval requiring the developer to execute and record an affordable housing agreement that documents the project's affordable housing obligations prior to approval of the final map. The project also requires a TSPC review, and that happened also in 2021. And that is for new stop signs were recommended through a stop warrant analysis that was done for the project as part of the environmental analysis. And so that has been reviewed by the TSPC, and they did recommend approval, and that will move on to City Council with the rest of the project. The TSPC reviewed it, as I said, in 2021 in June. And it would require a new all-way stop at the intersection of Glenview Drive and San Bruno Avenue, and improved pavement graphics for pedestrians. So it makes that crossing from the subject site over to Lenardi's on the other corner and some of the other businesses over there much easier with these improvements. And again, that needs to be the TSPC is the recommending body for that, and they have reviewed it, and City Council will be the approval body. So the project is also has a development agreement associated with it. The draft development agreement is attached to the staff report. In this case, the applicant has committed to a community benefit payment of $400,000 to the city as general fund. This would be separated into 2 separate payments. The first payment would be made at building permit issuance, with the second payment made at the sale of the 10th home. The term for this agreement is a 2-year term, and it also includes sales tax point of sale designation, and the draft agreement is also attached to the staff report for your consideration. So staff worked very closely with the project applicant and Larry Cannon, the city's architectural peer review consultant, to review and refine the overall site design and architectural appearance of the project from application submittal to the present project that you see before you. Larry Cannon reviewed a number of iterations of the project. His review was to determine consistency with the city's residential design guidelines, as well as identify any other issues and concerns. Mr. Cannon's overall assessment was that the project is well designed to fit into the site, which is adjacent to a single-family neighborhood. However, he made a number of recommendations for project improvement, and so I'm just going to touch on a few of the notable ones. He recommended removal of the three-story homes that were in the original project. He recommended increasing the front setbacks along Glenview Drive to be more consistent with the homes that were further to the north of the site. And he recommended removal of obstructions to increase sight lines at the southernmost driveway entrance. That's that first driveway entrance off San Bruno Avenue. And then he had further recommendations for refinements to the overall architecture project. So staff has determined that the current proposal is responsive to Mr. Cannon's recommendations. And his overall review of the project is attached to the staff report as well. So I think I already went over this portion. This is the intersection of San Bruno Avenue and Glenview Drive where the improvements will be made. And so what that'll be is there'll be a crosswalk at all four entrances to this intersection, and there'll be stop signs. So a little bit about the public outreach. In total, the applicant hosted 3 neighborhood meetings for the project. The first 2 meetings were in person and held in February and March of 2014. Yes, this project has been around a little while. And then most recently, in May of 2021, a virtual neighborhood meeting was held. Feedback obtained from the first 2 meetings was considered as the formal project plans were being developed. A little bit about the comments that were received. Neighbors really wanted to see a signal light at the intersection of San Bruno Avenue and Glenview Drive. And concerns were raised regarding potential view impacts, compatibility of the proposed 3-story homes in the subdivision, the overall density of the project, traffic, parking for larger vehicles, and privacy to homes, existing homes located downslope of the site. So, as I said before, the 3-story homes have been removed. And also, regarding addressing the signal light, we did have a second meeting where we went back to the community to explain where we were with the signal light. And so how signal lights work is you have to do an analysis called a signal warrant to determine if the signal is actually warranted at that intersection. And that analysis was done, and it didn't at that time warrant a signal. However, a stop analysis was done, and the stop signs were warranted. So that's why the project is proceeding to make those improvements at the intersection and not a signal light. So a little more comments that were received at the more recent meeting in 2021. It was a fairly well-attended meeting. Neighbors mostly had questions about the project. And again, we explained why there was no signal light, but they shared some concerns at that meeting as well. Privacy impacts to homes located downslope came up again at that meeting. Concern was also shared about the project might impact parking in the neighborhood. And then whether or not this site had been evaluated for landslide, and that was due to, at that same time, there was the outfall was eating away at the roadway there on San Bruno Avenue at that exact time. So that information was taken into consideration as we prepared the environmental document for the project. And so summaries of all 3 of these meetings are attached to the staff reports if you wanted to see. So this pretty much brings me to the end of my portion of the presentation. And again, before we enter questions, we are going to hear a presentation from the applicant. which will be more focused on the project design. So I'm going to stop sharing, and that portion of the presentation, I believe, will be done by Richard.
Thank you, Michael. Give me one moment to get the presentation up. Would you please let me know if you see the presentation?
Yes.
Excellent. Very good. Well, first of all, thank you, commissioners, for your time and attention to this application, to staff's presentation, to our presentation. My name is Rich Pierota. I'm the applicant's representative. The applicant is here. He's an attendee, and we are very excited to be here, and thank you. We want a special thank you to city staff, especially Michael Smith, who was fantastic. It was great to work with, and we appreciate him very much. So you've got a great staff in San Bruno, and we just thank you very much for working with him. Thank you, Michael. Just some brief introductions. As I said, my name is Rich Pierota. I'm the applicant's representative. Developer is Daniel Wong. He's here at the presentation. The architect is Stan Panko. You may be able to see him as a panelist. Our engineer is Dale Lita from DKF Engineers. He's also here in the presentation. The contractor is Jesse DeBaca and Dustin Deason at Earthtone. Public affairs for this was handled by Judge Quentin L. Kopp, and of course, Michael Smith. Also in the part of the applicant team is Joel Baldwin, our geotech. He's also in the attendee side. I think Michael showed you this picture already, but just to orient ourselves again, at the corner of Glenview Terrace and San Bruno Avenue, the project site. Here's a better picture, if you will, of what the site will look like from this different aerial view once it's built out. Again, San Bruno Avenue, Glenview Terrace. Give you a chance to take a look at that and what it will propose to look like once it's fully built out. There's a site map, and just to point out a couple of amenities in case there were any questions. The red circle is a public amenity. It's a picnic table and picnic area with guest parking as well. And that's over here on towards the north side of the project. And then the dotted line here is an unimproved trail to the future trail, potential access to future trail to come to Crestmore. As Michael just stated, the community benefits that the developer, the applicant would like to reiterate is that there is a $400,000 contribution to the city that could be used for any of the below. Again, a four-way traffic signal if that's the city's choice, or acquisition development of recreational facilities or other uses determined by the city. The development is happy to and prepared to provide the 15% BMR units for them to be on site. As Michael mentioned, that there's a bioretention for treatment of stormwater runoff and reduction of peak flows. There's a 30-foot defensible area at the rear closest to Crestmore Canyon. There will be upgraded water pressure for fire protection. And the exterior materials, which Stan Panko, the architect, can go into in more detail if you wish, are specified for wildfire zone. At this point, I will hand the rest of the presentation to Stan Panko, although I'll still be steering. So Stan, just let me know when you advance when you want me to advance the slides.
Yes, hello. I'm Stan Panko, and Chairman Harmon and commissioners. I'm pleased to be here to demonstrate some of our architecture and all the wonderful amenities of Glendu Terrace. This is the first street parallel to San Bruno Avenue, where it's a one-way street entrance. Our first 4 homes are here on the left, and you'll see those in more detail when I bring up the straight-on elevations and the color schemes. You will notice that our streets are relatively pedestrian oriented, meaning that there's no parallel parking on each side. It's pretty open, straightforward. Each home has a 2-car parking space in front of the garage, as well as 2 cars in the garage, and 19 parking spaces that are situated strategically throughout the project in various locations. So what you're seeing here is a very much a pedestrian-oriented street scene. So if you could, next slide, please. This is a section in the rear of the project. These homes overlook the canyon. This is, I believe, home number 6 that would show up on the site plan, all the way down to number 17, I believe that's on the end. We have a mix of home styles here, but they're all somewhat integrated in the sense that we have Mediterranean, Craftsman, and Colonial. And the reason for that is to begin to associate this new neighborhood with the Crestmore neighborhood, which has many of these elements within it. So we were looking very much to begin to relate this to the bigger Crestmore area and really enhance their neighborhood as well. So next slide. Again, homes along the backside. I think this is showing a little more specifically what we're doing here in terms of this is a Craftsman style. Lots of detail. As you can see in the windows, the columns, the porches. Every home has a porch. Every home has a 2-car garage. So just like every home must have an entrance. Colonial styles pick up the shutters and the window boxes and things of that nature. So next slide, please. This is right in the center of the site, unit number 24. I believe it's about 2,000 feet. As Michael mentioned, all homes are 2 stories and roughly average 2,000 feet. Every home is fully landscaped. Ground covers, as you can see in the front, as well as street trees for each home. And they're fully, as I said, landscaped. Next, please. Glendu Drive. This is the last home at the end, adjacent to the current Crestmore neighborhood, in which we set back the entire home a little bit further, including the garage further, in order to get a good relationship to the existing neighborhood. The street is detailed with the low ground covers, as you can see across, along with I can't think of the name of the trees now. Street trees, fruitless olive trees that border the property that are similar to what you find on San Bruno Avenue in the island. They're carried down not only San Bruno Avenue that you'll see in a moment, but Glenview Terrace as well. Next, please. View on San Bruno Avenue, looking northwest towards the rear of the homes that face that first street. All of these homes' rear yards are actually facing San Bruno Avenue, but we have I think a pretty interesting and nice buffer fence area. It's a berm of about 2 feet high, and then a 4-foot wall and 2 feet of open metal grill on the top. So well landscaped with ground cover and the fruitless olive trees on the street side. Next. This gets into the detail of street elevations of each. There's 3 groups here that we're showing. This is the first group you saw on that first street, units 1 through 4, And here they are with the Mediterranean Craftsman, Colonial, and Craftsman again. So you can see they're different detailing, but it's all homogeneous, and I think all works quite well together. Units 18 to 21, those are on the back side. Similar situation. You'll see that Mediterranean Craftsman, Colonial Craftsman again are nice. I feel really nicely detailed. This is in the center of the site, one of the center streets, the center street. I believe this was unit number 24, and Glenview Drive is really over in this area where the renderer got kind of carried away. Next slide, please. Go on to the slides that were the extra slides, I believe, at the end. Backup slides. Yeah, okay. Go back to the landscape. Here is a Marina strawberry tree that will be at the entrance to most each home within the development. This is the fruitless olive trees that you'll find on the perimeter of the site, Glendu Drive and San Bruno Avenue, and the coast live oak that'll border the area pretty much at the rear of the development. These are all box trees, 36-inch box trees that will take care of the complementing the trees that were being removed from the site. This is a group of our ground covers. And these are all the grasses that go in the bioretention areas. So next, please. Well, didn't mean to bring this one up, but this is good. This will show you our little recreation area, picnic area that is set up for the homeowners to use for family gatherings and so on and so forth. And we have some other fencing details here and wall details of what we're doing. Can you go on to the next, please? Next. I'm looking for the color. There we go. The color elevations. We have for each series of homes, Craftsman, Colonial, Mediterranean, we have 3 color schemes that have been set up. The Craftsman style, the roofing is all dark gray, Owens Corning, true definition. So they've got some character to it, some relief to it, and dark gray tones. Windows are white, trim is all white throughout the house. The sidewall shingles, the sidings are all various deep colors, entry door accents, and then we're using stone veneer for the Craftsman and the Mediterranean as accents around the base of each home and in certain situations. Next slide. This is typical Mediterranean scheme. Color scheme is similar, but more in the warm tones. The roof has some brown in it. It looks black here in this particular slide, but it is a very, very deep brown. Again, white windows, white trim, and then more warmer colors to represent the Mediterranean style, and stone veneer as accents. And the next one is, I believe, a colonial style, which is a little different, but then once again, a lot of the similarities still exist. Dark gray for the roofing. The window frames in this case are black, but all the window trims, and they're, as you can see, wide trims are all white. And the color tones are more in the blues and grays with brick veneer instead of stone. So that gives you an overview of the design and of our layout. I think you will find it, once completed, quite pleasing, and I'm quite happy with it. And I hope you are as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. Just to close the presentation, the applicant is prepared with the Planning Commission's approval this evening, and we appreciate staff's recommendation to the Planning Commission that it's a recommendation for approval. Obviously, we support that. And we are prepared to go to council meeting sometime in the end of this quarter and start construction in Q4 and estimate 18 to 24 months total construction over 3 phases. With that, the applicant's team is available for any questions. And again, we thank you.
Commissioners, just before we get into the questions, just want to remind you that this project does need to go on to the City Council. So you're making a recommendation for approval to the City Council. There are 5 resolutions attached to make those recommendations for the different actions that you would be approving tonight. And when we get to that point, I will put them up on the screen so that you have something to reference. And I think with that, that completes our presentation, and we're available for any questions.
Thank you, Michael. Do we have any hands from the commission? Oh, I see Mary Lou.
I have a few questions. I want to start with the traffic and the lights taking place. I would like to just know how it was determined to go stoplights versus stop signs versus stoplights, and I'm sure all of this is taken into consideration, but I do want to be able to voice it for discussion. Is I don't know if many of you recall the congestion and the issues we were having on Samuel Avenue down near the overpass of 280. For the very longest time, there was discussion about whether they should put in a stoplight. They had a stop sign there, or actually they didn't have anything there at one point, and they didn't want to put a stoplight there for the very longest time. And now we've gotten accustomed to it. And because there was one very close as you're exiting from the south onto San Bruno Avenue, and then there's another one immediately thereafter. And so there was a lot of concern about that, but truly it has been calibrated where it's almost a non-issue, and it does create safety for the pedestrians going back and forth. So with more traffic there and more homes and more people walking and possibly grocery shopping, there's going to be a lot more cross traffic and also going onto the walking path. So I have some concerns about that area, because as you're coming off a Skyline, I go there, especially when I was working twice a day, sometimes more, 45 years. I'm really familiar for this community there. And so as you're heading north on Skyline, the traffic is horrendous. It backs up way out onto the freeway from the exit off of 280 all the way back. It just really backs up. So if you're making a right turn onto San Bruno Avenue, and it's a stop sign, I can only imagine what the traffic is going to be like. So I'd like to at least have that noted, and I don't know if there's any discussion about this tonight, but I think it was really important to point out that the fact that, I would like at least to have some feedback at one point, even if it's after it goes to the City Council. It doesn't have to be tonight, but I think it's a really important piece to take a look at. And then I wanted to know if there was looking at, first of all, I want to acknowledge they're beautiful homes, nice balance, just really top of the line, and just really support all that I see. I want to just ask, it looks like there's only sidewalks on one side, and I wanted just to confirm that. I'll ask all my questions and then you could answer them. Is there any street parking at all in these 29 homes? I was looking at the presentation, and I didn't see any cars other than moving cars. The one that's showing us right now, I don't know if that's parked or designed to be a moving car. I can't quite tell. So I wanted to know if there was any sidewalk parking. And then the view on view E looks wide. It looked wider than the 22 to 20, I think it was 22 to 24 street wide. That's compared to the width of the streets. So, but that particular view E, appeared to be quite wide. Now, we didn't know if that was an illusion or if that is the case. And then my last question is, the lot across the street from the previous gas station that was there, I'll be so pleased to know that there'll be a much more attractive corner here. Is that going to remain an empty lot right now? It's leased by the Church of the Highlands. Caltrans leases it to them it was at one point for overflow parking, but I never really see that taking place. And also that particular corner is high winds. And then actually I do have the last question I have is the plant palette. Has it been considered that it's a wind tunnel there, and that the wind, to provide wind tolerant plants? It doesn't take long for them to dry out and die. And when the gas station was there, we made some requirements for them to put up some various different tolerant plants, but they all were just, it didn't take long. Within 6 months, they were not looking very good. So I wanted just to be able to have some feedback in those areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. I will attempt to answer your questions, and then I also forgot to mention that we do have a number of people with us here tonight. These are the folks that worked on the project, on the different studies, such as the traffic study, the engineering. You heard about the geotech. So as needed, I will call them into the room to respond to the questions. So what I heard you had a question about the stoplight, about the sidewalks in the development, whether there was street parking in the development, view E and the street width and whether or not it was accurate, and then development about the lot across the street, which is I think we know that as the Caltrans lot, and then whether the plants were suited for the environment. So a little bit about the stoplight before I'll turn it over to the traffic consultant at a certain point here, but a little bit about the stoplight is that to put a stoplight in, you need to do an analysis that determines that there's enough traffic to warrant putting in that stoplight. And we did the analysis, and it did not show that there was enough traffic being generated by this project or in general, in totality, that would warrant putting a stoplight there at this time. That does not mean that traffic won't rise to the level in the future, and we could do that analysis again, and perhaps it is warranted at that time, but it was not warranted right now. We did do a stop warrant. We did that analysis, and that analysis showed that the stop signs were needed, so that will become a four-way stop. Regarding, and again, I'll let Aaron, the traffic consultant, chime in on that when I'm finished answering the rest of your questions. So as far as the sidewalks are only on one side of the street. That's just how the development was designed. I know the city has seen both types. Some residential developments, small subdivisions have come in with sidewalks on one side, and some have come with both sides. But this one only has it on one side. In addition, there is no street parking, so there's no curbside parking at all, and that is the purpose of the 19 parking spaces, the guest parking spaces, would help fill that need, is how we envision it. The lot across the street, so again, that's the Caltrans lot. It's not associated with this development. I'm not quite sure what the city, well, if the city has any intention of, pursuing that lot for anything. I do want to say that it is underneath the San Andreas Fault. So the San Andreas Fault pretty much kind of runs underneath that lot and the skyline itself, and which makes it very difficult to develop anything, any habitable structure on that site. So if it does get developed in the future, it'll most likely have to be something more open space oriented. But there are no plans for that at this time. Let's see. So with that, I'm going to let Aaron provide some more explanation for the stoplight, and then after that, I'll let Stan chime in on the plant palettes and how they're suited for the environment. Okay, Aaron.
Hey, good evening to the commission. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Erin Vaca. I'm with UKS Associates, and we're the transportation consultants on the project impact analysis. As Michael said, the primary reason for recommending a four-way stop control versus a signalized intersection was the signal warrants, and so this is done according to the California Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. The impacts of the project there were primarily in worsening the side street lay, in other words, difficulty of turning onto San Bruno Avenue from Glenview Drive. And we did also, in analyzing this intersection, look at the queuing that would possibly occur to make sure that that would not be spilling back from this intersection to the Skyline Boulevard intersection. And then in addition, it is good that the crosswalks will be going in because that will facilitate the ease of pedestrians crossing the street here. So I hope that's helpful, and happy to follow up with any other additional questions.
No, you've answered it. Thank you. Time will tell.
And then Stan, can you comment on the plants?
Well, yes, I can, except that I'm not a landscape architect. So, but what I can say is that those are all drought-resistant plants, and we had some of those discussions some time back in terms of the wind. But it's a good point, and I'm going to bring it back up to our landscape architect and just verify and confirm that we don't have any plants in there that are going to give us more problems than we need. So I thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
You also mentioned, since I'm here, the view E as in Edward, is it right?
Yes.
With the street? Okay, that's Glenview Drive. If we can bring that up. Yes, here. And yes, the person that did the rendering, this white line is really, well, the street is wider than the others, but it's certainly not all the width here that you see or that you can imagine. This is an existing street, and it's, as I said, wider than the others, but not this way.
Okay. Thank you for noting that.
Yes. Okay. Anything else?
No, you've answered my questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Morgan.
Yeah, I have just a couple of comments. I love the development. There's great articulation, great variation in the houses, and great color scheme. Just a question. Did I read somewhere that the application has been ongoing since 2014, or did I get that wrong? That was from Michael.
Yes, that is correct. The application has been going on, I think, even prior to 2014. But perhaps, Stan, do you want to explain some of the background behind the application?
Well, yes. I was the architect involved in the first project, which was back in 2006, which had to do with the 16 townhomes where the service stations are. Unfortunately, when the downturn came in 2008, that project dried up and disappeared and went away. New buyers, owners came in 2014, started the project again, and then pulled back in 2000 and I believe 16, I want to say maybe 17, somewhere in there, and pulled out of it, and then new owners came along in 2018, 19 to reactivate it and take it where it's at now.
Well, I hope it succeeds this time.
Yes, thank you. Well, it's a much better project than it was before, so I'm pleased about that.
It's a beautiful design, and I like the comments from Larry Cannon. I thought all his critique was very on target, and just wish you the best with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Leffen.
Thanks. I'm excited to see this this project before us. I think this is going to be. I'm excited for added housing in our city, and I'm excited for an enhancement on what right now is kind of a funny, underutilized area. I appreciate the reduction from the 3-story homes back to the 2-story homes. I think that it looks a lot better than what we saw in the staff packet where the 3-story homes were indicated. So I appreciate that. And also Mr. Cannon's comments. I always look forward to reading this because I think they're very helpful and common sense. So thank you for facilitating that. And I just wanted to, and maybe it was my not reading it right, but I think the plans that were included in the staff packet had included the plans that had not yet been adjusted based on Mr. Cannon's comments. I could be wrong, but I just wanted to clarify that beyond just moving from the 3-story to the 2-story, that the other recommendations that Mr. Cannon had made have been followed.
Yes. So most of Mr. Cannon's larger picture comments were followed. So this project, for instance, we talked about the setbacks. They increased the setbacks along Glenview Drive. That first house along Glenview Drive, which you see on your screen right now, that house was somewhat modified from the rest of the houses. You know, the rest of the houses are more narrow. This one is a little bit more ranch style, and that is so that it has a little bit more of a flow into the houses in the existing neighborhood to the north. And then one of the homes was removed on the corner of San Bruno Avenue to provide more sight distance at that corner. So that's how his comments got integrated, and I think there was also architectural comments that got integrated into the project as well. I won't say that every single comment that he made got integrated, but the majority of them did, and the larger gestures that he wanted made got made.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I think those are all of my questions.
Do we have any other commissioners wishing to ask questions? I don't see any more hands. I just want to make sure, like, it sounded like all of these driveways, the depth should be such that even for a somewhat sizable car, that they should be able to pull in and not block the sidewalk. A couple of the renderings, it seemed a little difficult to judge that.
Yes, each house has 20 feet, which is the standard code requirement. So if a vehicle is larger than 20 feet, then it would fit, and it wouldn't fit our standard guidelines, but it meets our guidelines.
And I assume that, I mean, we're seeing solar in the renderings, which I think is just, that's sort of a California requirement for all new construction at this point.
Maybe Stan might be able to answer that. Do you know what the building code requirement is regarding solar for the project?
Yes, all new homes need to take that into account. We had planned solar from day one, going back to 2014. So it's always been thought of as an energy efficient development. And I'm very much glad to see that California is now requiring that to be considered on all new homes. So, yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I generally appreciate the project. You know, it seemed consistent with the area, a little bit denser than what's been there, but I think quite reasonable. I personally wouldn't have objected to having some of them have a third story, but you know, it's fine. Do we have, let's see, we'll want to open for public comment. At this time, if any member of the public in attendance would like to raise their hands, I am seeing at least two. Madeline, would you like to start admitting people so they can speak?
Yes, Chair. Rolf, I'm going to open the mic for you.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yay. Okay. My name is Melissa Rolfe. I live in the surrounding Glenview community. Thank you for this opportunity. I had a couple of quick questions. I'm wondering if the community, the broader community of Glenview area, will lose any current street parking along Glenview Avenue or San Bruno Avenue due to the design of the construction, because this is there's a popular area for trail walkers, and I'm just wondering if we'll lose any current street parking that's available to us. And then my other question is about those amenities, and it's just clarifying something. I thought in the initial description, it was described as like the open areas and the picnic tables were open to everyone. Does that mean it's open to the broader Glenview community, or just to the residents who buy the homes in this new particular development? That's everything. Thank you.
Thank you. I would imagine we can get answers to those from our applicants.
Chair, did you want to go through all the public comment first, or did you want staff to try to address these as each speaker speaks, or the teams?
I guess we can take, as long as we're taking notes, to make sure we're collecting them.
We have one more hand up, Chair.
Sure, we can admit that.
Jen, the microphone is open.
Yes, hi, I'm actually Darlene Isola. I'm on my daughter's phone. Thank you for listening to my comment. I did attend that 2014 meeting, and at that time we were in the midst of rebuilding our Crestmore neighborhood, which was exceedingly stressful. And that was about a 9-year project. I'm not sure if any of the planning commissioners live in our Crestmore neighborhood, but the thought of another 23 months of dirt and dust and trucks, et cetera, is very daunting. The entire traffic situation, many of us foresee as a nightmare. I understand you did your homework with your traffic updates and your studying of the impact that it would do on our neighborhood. My husband and I have walked that neighborhood for 41 years. The traffic is getting worse and worse, and this I really fear at that intersection is going to be a situation where accidents are going to happen. It's going to be impossible for many of the residents to get up that hill. I think there are unforeseen problems that perhaps the commission is not recognizing. And my second question is this. I did try to look up the New Shaddai Development LLC. There is not much information on them. Are they an American-owned company, or are they a foreign-owned development company? And if so, I'm just curious, where are they from? There is not much on the website. Perhaps I didn't navigate it correctly, but I'm just curious as to who they are. And that's it. I'm done. Those are my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you for your the information you're providing. I see two more hands.
Yes, Chair. Andrea, I'm going to open the mic.
Hi, good evening. This is actually Brian, not Andrea, but Brian Van Alex live adjacent to the proposed development site. In fact, my home was featured prominently on some of the satellite imagery. So just wanted to come out and say very supportive of this development and happy to see it go forward. Couple of kind of off-topic thoughts I hadn't intended to share, but one regarding the point raised by Commissioner Johnson around the wind. It is very windy here. There was some fabric attached to the fencing around the site recently, which acted as God intended as sails and fully pulled that fence over. So be aware of the wind. You know, that might be a valid point to think about the plants and whether or not they'll survive the wind up here. And secondly, completely unsolicited political thought, but the Rain of 6 numbers for San Bruno look scary. And I was sort of surprised to hear some of the conservative thinking from the commission around new housing in San Bruno. So hopefully you guys are prepared to buckle your seatbelts, because you know, I think there's intended to be a lot more building in San Bruno. So I'll be kind of looking at that and hoping to see much more of this going on in the future, but wanted to add my support. Thanks.
Patricia, I'm going to open the mic.
Thank you so much. I live on Claremont Drive, very close to Ms. Isola, and I share her concerns about rush hour traffic. I just recently retired, and for many years I would come off 280 at the stop sign at San Bruno Avenue and would try to get into the lane to Glenview, which is very quick. And I found westbound traffic on San Bruno Avenue to be rude, and sometimes I had to hit my horn in order to find ease into Glenview. People would keep coming all the way and block the whole intersection, and I am very concerned about that. That concerns me a lot, because that window between 5:30 and 7 at night on a weeknight is downright dangerous. So that's about enough said on that. I just have personal experience, and I really do believe that a stop sign may be marginally enforced, and it would create a lot of confusion, especially the elderly that walk to the Lenardis at times, and children. It's also going westbound on San Bruno Avenue. There's a visual, the road goes higher and cars don't always see you, and they're racing at 40 miles an hour. So I am very concerned, and that's my one comment. Thank you for listening.
Carol, I'm going to open the mic. Can you hear us, Carol?
Yes, I can. My big concern is that our neighborhood is basically new in many ways with new streets, new sewer lines, all like this. What is going to happen when the major trucks and construction equipment come? What entrance will they take into this particular neighborhood? And is the street wide enough for them to be able to get in, for the rest of us to get in coming from San Bruno Avenue? Thank you very much.
Chair, I believe those are all the hands that were raised.
I don't see any hands from folks that have not spoken. Okay. Michael, have you been keeping the record? I took some notes myself as well in case we need them.
I did.
Okay, great.
So Ms. Rolfe asked about loss of current street parking and use of the amenity space. So I will let the applicant answer the question regarding the amenity space because that is not something we had talked about. But before I do, regarding the loss of current street parking, so right now there is unobstructed curbside space running from San Bruno Avenue all the way down to the driveway, which is the entrance to the church parking lot, and then another driveway further down, which is almost at the edge of the northern edge of the site, which is to the house that's behind the church. And so right now it's two driveways, and they are of a certain width. I'm not quite sure what the width is, but the new project would have a total of 4 openings on Glenview Drive. So there would be some loss of parking if you were to net it out for the Glenview frontage. But overall, there would still be parking on Glenview Drive. Yeah. And then I'll let the applicant ask about the amenity, answer the question about the amenity space.
Okay, I'll jump in on that one. We hadn't really discussed it in detail, but the recreation area was primarily for the neighborhood, the new neighborhoods being created. Those are all private streets in a private area. There's certainly no reason why arrangements can't be made for other neighborhood families to enjoy it as well, but the main purpose was for the project itself. And I would imagine that being that it's private property, that the homeowners association would want to have some control in it.
I was actually going to ask, was that this would be the collection of homes would be operated with a homeowners association, and so the HOA could adopt bylaws to rent out that space to others from the area for whatever, rental fee. We have park fees for renting our public San Bruno picnic areas as well.
That is correct.
All right. Miss Isola asked about construction traffic and where New Shaddai development was located. So maybe the applicant can talk a little bit about New Shaddai.
Sure. New Shaddai is California LLC. It's based here in California. Principal Daniel Wong, who's here attending, is the primary principal. I'm not sure what else to state about New Shaddai or development or about Daniel, other than Daniel's a resident of California and is committed to the project here in San Bruno.
Thank you, Richard. Regarding the construction traffic, they are required to put a construction plan together prior to the building permits being released. It's something that we'll discuss further on as the project progresses. I mean, so we will get to that point, and we haven't set up yet a program for how we're going to notify the Crestmore neighborhood of when things are happening. But that is something we'll work out with Public Works. And as far as a haul route, we'll determine that at that time as well. So we don't know exactly how vehicles will be arriving to site to do the construction. However, it is highly unlikely that they would enter the site from the north, from Sneath Lane. They would most likely enter it from San Bruno Avenue, since it is right there, and that keeps them from routing through a residential neighborhood. Let me see, Mr. Vanderlut. I think he liked the project and was cognizant of our RENA 6 numbers, which I'm also cognizant of.
We could recommend that Mr. Vanderloot come to our study session specifically on RENA, which we've had a couple.
Yes. Ms. Briskin talked about traffic during rush hour. So I don't know. I could pull the traffic consultant back in if you wanted to hear more about what the traffic situation is like there. But overall, we're talking about 29 homes, and the trip generation from the 29 homes was not considered to be significant enough to warrant. So it's probably going to be fairly negligible. I'm not saying it's not going to increase whatever's happening there right now, but it's going to do so at a fairly negligible level considering the size of the project. And again, if you want to hear more explanation of that, I'd be happy to get the traffic consultant. And then lastly, Ms. Gray talked about new streets. And again, she talked about routing. And so again, we're going to have that traffic routed from San Bruno Avenue to the site, not from the north through the Crestmore neighborhood. And as far as the new streets, it is my understanding that we do a pavement indexing through Public Works prior to the permits getting issued, so that we know the condition that the pavement is in currently, and so that we can then do another pavement condition survey at the end of the project and see what these vehicles have done to the roadway. And I'm not sure what happens after that, whether they have to pay the city for something, but I think David Wong, if you're available, we can allow you to talk, and maybe you can explain a little bit more on this. And David Wong is the city's principal public works engineer.
Hi, it's David, Public Works. So typically what happens on these projects is sort of what Michael said is we will have the applicant do a pavement condition index before any construction happens, and then we'll do one after to see what the effects of those construction vehicles might have. And at that point, the city would decide should the applicant, I guess, it'll be a kind of a conversation between the city and the applicant, how best to take care of any damages that happen as part of that construction process, whether it be providing funds for a project or actually having the applicant repave.
Thank you, David. And that's all that questions that I have. If I missed one, please let me know.
And nothing in my notes that we didn't go over. I was just going back to the conversation around the loss of street parking and observing, I was sort of just glancing at this on Google Maps, and it seems that the existing driveway from the old church parking lot is pretty, it was sort of extra wide. Actually, I'm not sure. I mean, it looks like we'd probably have almost no net loss. Somebody could perhaps measure that, but it seems like the shift to these 4 relatively narrow streets, that existing driveway entrance was quite substantial. I think at this time, do we need to call a vote to close our public hearing?
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Chair Harmon,
Aye.
Commissioner Biasotti,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan,
Aye.
Commissioner Lethen.
Aye.
5-0, motion passes.
Do we have any further discussion among the commission? I see Commissioner Lethen.
Thank you. I was just kind of going through my notes also about the public comments, and I thought that Ms. Briskin brought up a good point, and I think I saw it mentioned in the staff report about the uphill approach of the stop, or the uphill approach of the intersection where the 4-way stop is proposed. And people do whip up that hill really fast, and I could see that being a surprise once you kind of reach the crest of the hill. But I think I saw some sort of like warning signs or some sort of like flashing beacon or some sort of indicator of that stop sign, and I was wondering if staff or our consultant may have be able to shed light on that.
Yeah, hi. I brought Dave back into the room from Public Works. He'll be able to explain the improvements that are being proposed for the intersection.
Thanks.
Sure. So as part of the positions that the city put on the project, specifically, yes, there is an always stop control, but it will be enhanced with LEDs, so it'll be a flashing red. And then again, there'll also be kind of a stop ahead warning signs, say a couple hundred feet before on the approach, so that even as they come up the hill, they're warned before they get to the crest that there's an upcoming stop sign. And the crosswalks themselves will have sort of high visibility crosswalk striping just to enhance the area for pedestrian safety.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. I so often I drive up there almost once or twice a day, sometimes 3 if my kid forgets something and I have to deliver it up to school. But it is a dangerous intersection for pedestrians, especially, but for cars and anybody who wants to go to Lenardi's, you always kind of have to cross your fingers and hope it's going to go okay. So I'm looking forward to having this added 4-way stop, and I'm optimistic it will be adequate. Thank you.
I actually do have a question following on that for the traffic engineer, which is I know that some of the discussion was around essentially creating gridlock here, that the people were stacking up against Skyline in ways that put vehicles into the intersection, preventing people from turning into Glenview. So now you have, a further lane obstructed. And I wonder if there is sort of a knowledge among traffic engineers around the degree to which, I mean, it seems like a stop sign will certainly help that, because somebody isn't going to just be approaching and then stop behind the car in front of them in the middle of the intersection. They at least have to come to a stop first at the intersection before rolling through. Is there sort of a general sense of how much a stop sign by itself, short of a signal, helps to mitigate that kind of gridlock issue? Or was that sort of something that was within the scope of this study?
David, do you want to answer that, or do you want the city's traffic engineer to opine?
Could you have Saeed speak on this generically?
Sure. Madeline, can you allow Saeed to speak?
Yes.
Thank you.
Saeed, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Did you hear the question?
Yes. Good evening. I'm Saeed Fakhri. I'm a consultant staff traffic engineer for the city at the moment. I think the concern the city staff had was this stop sign may back up traffic all the way to Skyline. So that was analyzed, and as the consultant BKF said, she said the left turn from Skyline and the right turn, the volume were considered, and the stop sign backup is not enough to back to that intersection. So the storage between the two stop sign and the signal is enough. But in terms of congestion, the stop sign doesn't help with congestion, but increase safety. So the concerns we had was drivers making left from Glenview to San Bruno Avenue will have a kind of a gap, so people on the drivers on San Bruno have to stop so they can provide a safe left turn, and that was the concern. The other concern was the pedestrian crossing the street. But in terms of congestion, if I get the question right, stop sign itself doesn't help with congestion, but that was a concern to see what will be the congestion, because it's not a flow now on San Bruno without stopping, which is a safety concern. So the safety concern was more of an issue for us, but we did look at congestion and see if the congestion is a big concern, and it wasn't. So did I answer the question?
I think about sort of mostly. I mean, the scenario that our public comment was raising was I believe that we'd had some situations where people were approaching from the east towards Skyline, hitting that stoplight and backing up until they blocked Glenview. And it does seem like the stop sign may help prevent that, at least, just because...
Yes, you're right. On that direction, the stoplight will help, because now you don't have a unstopped flow of traffic. You have a gap, so people stop, and so not everybody can go. So that direction, it helps. The other reverse direction was the concern.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that answers my question. Are there any other hands? I am not seeing any remaining questions from the commission. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion through the chair that to adopt resolution 2022-02, which recommends the City Council adopt the mitigated negative declaration and associated mitigation monitoring program subject to the findings in the resolution.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Chair Harmon?
Aye.
Commissioner Biasotti?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Lethen?
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan?
Aye.
I think you're muted, Madeline, if you were attempting to say that it carries 5-0.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, 5-0 motion passes.
I will myself make the motion to adopt Resolution 2022-03, which recommends the City Council approve a general plan amendment to change the current land use designation for assessors parcel numbers 019-042-170 from low density residential to medium density residential, and approve a zoning ordinance amendment to change assessors parcel number 019-042-170 from low density residential R1 to planned development PD, and amend the existing planned development for assessors parcel numbers 019-042-150 and 019-042-160.
I'll second that.
Chair Harmon?
Aye.
Commissioner Biasotti?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Lithin?
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes.
I'll make the next motion to adopt resolution. I'm sorry, I didn't let you say it passed.
Oh, she did.
Motion passed.
Okay, thank you. I make a motion to adopt resolution 2022-04, which recommends the City Council approve a vesting tentative track map based on conditions of approval 1 through 74. 1-174.
Is that a second, Val?
Yes.
Okay.
Chair Harmon?
Aye.
Commissioner Biasotti?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Lithin?
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes.
All right, take the next one. I make a motion to adopt Resolution 2022-05, which recommends City Council approve the planned development permit and architectural review permit.
Second.
Chair Harmon?
Aye.
Commissioner Biasotti?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Lithin?
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes.
I'm happy to make the next one too. I make a motion to adopt Resolution 2022-06, which recommends City Council approve the development agreement and affordable housing plan.
Again, second that.
Final roll.
Chair Harmon?
Aye.
Commissioner Biasotti?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Lithin? Commissioner Morgan?
Aye.
5-0, motion passes.
Thank you, Madeline. My understanding is that since all of these are resolutions with recommendations to council, there is nothing to appeal here, so we would not have the 10-day appeal period on any of these actions. Let's see, that concludes our public hearings for the evening. Get back to my agenda. Our conduct of business section, this agenda is empty. Items from staff, we have the ARC meeting.
That's correct. Yes.
And what is the date of the upcoming ARC meeting?
May 12th. So I see Commissioner Johnson,
I can be available.
Leffen, and Biasotti. Okay?
I can be available as a backup.
Okay. Very good.
And then we have our second period for public comment on matters not on the agenda. Do we have any? I see a hand. I think that might be left over from earlier, but we could ask Patricia if she is still intending to address a separate issue.
Patricia, can you hear us?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I guess I had this I'm not privy to your format, but just one request to Mr. Smith, if he could have that traffic done, that report on the traffic during rush hour, just for my peace of mind, and that's my comment. The other is this trail out to the Crestmore Trail that Mr. Panko talked about. I'm not aware that the city is going to do a trail ever in that canyon, so this is news to me. And thank you so much for letting me speak one last time.
Happy to hear from you. I had not heard specifically about a trail there, but I definitely look forward to hiking on it if and when that is installed. I know there are trails in the canyon, but I don't know about that one specifically. All right.
There are no more hands raised, Chair.
Okay. Do we have any items from members or subcommittee reports? Doesn't look like it. So I think that brings us to the end of our agenda, and we can adjourn. Our next regular meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May 17th, 2022 at our usual 7 p.m. time. We are adjourned. Thank you all for your time, and I will see you next time.